And welcome back, everybody. Our next guest was living the American dream. He moved here from Holland. He worked hard, saved his money, opened up a school to train people how to fly airplanes right up the road in Venice, Florida.
And his name is Rudi Dekkers, and you'll know the names of some of his students, Mohammed Atwa and Marwan Al-Shahi. They learned to fly at Rudi's school. And on September 11, 2001, they flew 2 planes into the World Trade Twin Towers in New York City.
Rudi wrote a book about this. It's called Guilty by Association, One Man's Unknowing Involvement in the Events of 9/11. This is his book right here, and here he is.
Good
Rudi
morning.
Dekkers, glad to have you here to tell the story of your life, which must have, at least at this point, been nowhere the way you would have ever imagined it as a little boy in Holland.
No, as you said, I lived the American dream, worked hard for it, get to a certain point, and then in aviation we say I made a 180-degree turn, back to zero.
You, these guys, the ones who flew the airplanes into the World Trade Towers, Twin Towers, learned how to fly. They had airplane flight training before, but they learned how to fly commercially at your school. You had no idea who they were.
No, none whatsoever. None. I wish we had an idea, because then we would report them.
But were there any signs when you said, I had read in the book that one of them you thought was very odd, he was very much by himself, he was nasty to women. Were there any indications that something was off with these two?
Well, you know what, if we say if somebody is nasty to women or he has a bad character, that makes him a terrorist, then half of the country is a terrorist.
No, but did you see anything that you thought?
No. I wish we saw something. There was nothing whatsoever that we saw. Even 10 years after the fact now, I talked to my ex-employees and I asked them, guys, was there anything that we could have seen or would have seen? I wish. I called them dead men walking. After a couple of weeks, my employees called him Dead Man Walking, because he had such a cold face. He never made any jokes. You know, it's a man environment, aviation, so we tend to have some jokes here and there. Nothing. But Al-Shahi was the opposite. He was a nice young man, 23 years old, and he had fun in life. Till today, I believe Al-Shahi did not know what he was going to do. Atta was dead already. He was not buried yet. But he knew what he was doing. He was the ringleader.
So it was not unusual for you to have students, international students from all over the world who came to your school. You must have done a good job training pilots.
Well, 80% of my students were foreign, and as well as my flight school in Naples. Americans don't go out of their way to go to a city to fly. They stay in their own city. But Europeans come over here because it's so much cheaper. It was about 70% cheaper to fly here than in Europe.
And when did you find out? When did you first get the clue that you were at home watching it on TV or listening to it on the radio just like the rest of us? And then when did you find out that, whoa, I know who these two guys are?
Next morning, I woke up around 5 o'clock watching the news for what happened on September 11. And I had a phone call at 5:30 in the morning from my office manager. She says, Rudi, I got the FBI here. Still didn't realize what was happening. They need 2 files, Mohammed Atta and Marwan Al-Shahi. And I was like, wow, that's strange. What's wrong? Let me talk to the inspector. And I spoke with the FBI agent. I said, why do you need those files? I can't talk about it. Oh, how do you get my information as a school? Now I start getting it together. He says, well, we found your information in the cars in Logan Airport. Boom. There it was. And I still...
You still get goosebumps.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
I can't...
You always will, Rudi.
I can't describe to you what I felt. Here, look at this. Look.
I see him.
Rudi, you're still feeling the goosebumps. It's 10 years later. I mean, I was there, not at the Trade Center, but I saw the towers come down, and it's something that will never get out of my brain. Your book is called Guilty by Association. Is there any, not that you should, but is there any guilt that you feel over this that you're living with? And what would you say to any of the families if they were sitting here today?
Well, no, there's no guilt whatsoever. That's why I've been an open book. My dad always told me, if you have nothing to hide, you speak. The FBI asked me at September 12 when I drove to Venice, don't speak with the media, they're going to crucify me. I said, well, sir, this is such a disaster, I'm going to speak. And I'm so happy I did, because of the media, because I was everywhere on national TV worldwide. Everybody understood very quick, I was just a businessman. I had no guilt. People said to me, how could you have known? Now, the reason guilty by association is the banks called the loans on me. Department of Transportation pulled my airline license. I owned an airline. Now I don't own even a doorknob of an airplane. But back then I owned an airline.
You lost a few dollars. How much did you lose, Rudi?
I was worth $12 million on paper, and now I'm worth zero.
Your marriage fell apart,
Yeah.
your business fell apart. But I love what you say here on page 212. You say, I remain an optimist. I still love this country for what it stands for. I still love the American people. And I still believe in the American dream. I believe that I will rebuild a good life for myself and that some good will come out of this mess.
We're going to protect ourselves more and more. I was on Fox and Friends Saturday, national.
I heard about that. Congratulations.
And, thank you. And I told them there, the government is really trying to get it together. Still some loopholes, but they're working on it. So, you know, we will understand that we have to protect ourselves.
The book is Guilty by Association, Rudi Dekkers, one man's unknowing involvement in the events of 9/11. He had no idea, and he was right up the road here, connected to one of the biggest events in American history. Rudi, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate that. All right, coming up, all these folks, look at them, that good-looking group of people. They came south, and now they're taking us north to Northport.